artificial intelligence replace the workforce, or will it augment it? Our guest today has zeroed in on this question, and her answers probably will surprise you. Welcome to Firing Line. I'm Bill Kutik. Christa Degnan Manning is VP of Solution Provider Research at Burson by Deloitte, a research arm of Deloitte. She's a longtime analyst, and she's taken a very hard look, as only analysts can, at AI. Hello, Christa. Glad you could be here with us today.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, Bill.
Christa, AI is on everyone's minds these days. It's in every publication you see. It's in newspapers, magazines, it's online. And I fear that, like with the hysteria about robots starting about 3 years ago, people are either not fully informing themselves, or they're ill-informed, or they're not informed at all, and they're just acting out of blind fear or whatever. So George LaRock, you may have seen him on a previous show, had a couple of comments about AI, but you've studied the likely impact of AI not just on the workforce, but on the HR function itself. So please, tell us what you've found.
Sure. Artificial intelligence really is a catch-all phrase for a number of different technologies that are now being brought together in meaningful ways to impact workforce productivity. True artificial intelligence where it's indiscernible talking to a human being really doesn't exist yet.
Hal? There's no Hal around?
Not yet, really.
Okay.
And while we certainly have looked at the impact of robots in the manufacturing plant, what I've most recently researched is software-based artificial intelligence, primarily robotic process automation, and then cognitive automation and augmentation.
So these software robots may not have an arm to do anything. Hal didn't have an arm to do anything, but they can still get a lot done.
Absolutely. So first, RPA, robotic process automation. Robotic process automation is like front-end system integration, and they kind of call it swivel chair automation. It's any place that a person can mimic a human interaction by logging into one system, pulling down information, and entering it into another system can be done by robotic process automation today. So a good example is, in the research I've done, I talked to a healthcare provider, which was using it in the recruiting process to check nurses' state certifications to nurse in hospitals. The RPA is able to go onto the web-based system on the internet, pull down the certification, and upload it to the applicant tracking system, which allows a lot faster processing times in recruiting and processing resumes. It can run 24/7, so you can process a lot more screening candidates. And it also helps with data entry, a lot less, fat fingers on the keys.
That's so interesting because it's like what I used to know background checking being like. And the first thing they do in background checking, when you're applying for a job, is they check your automobile record. How many accidents you've been in, how many DWIs you've got. Problem with that always was that only 48 states have those records online. The other two you'd have to dial for dollars to find out. But the point was, when they got a report back from them, it just went into the background checking report and was a dead document that was sent to HR, rather than it actually feeding something like the ATS, which really lubricates the whole recruiting process. So that's really smart and a step forward. And maybe background checkers do that now. I haven't spoken to too many of them lately, but I like that. Go ahead, tell me more.
So the next area is cognitive automation. And this is really where HR departments are looking at using text and voice recognition and generating software to mimic human judgment. So they can take, say, in the HR onboarding process, incoming questions from an employee, use semantic search to look through information on policies or programs, and then send it back to the employee so they can spend more of their time on the meaningful work. Now, cognitive augmentation is really how can these artificial technologies support regular decision making. So anyone who's done online shopping knows that you can get recommendations around what you might be interested in buying next. Very similar technologies can be applied in the enterprise. So it can make suggestions on things that employees might want to act on in terms of their work to get things moved through log jams or bottlenecks. And I think to some extent it's really going to help with the challenges we've had in productivity in terms of just getting people back to meaningful work.
Well, that's great. You've done enormous public service, at least for me, who was ignorant and ill-informed before this. You can't start thinking about this stuff until you start having some categories for it. So thank you so much for bringing us those categories that will eventually lead to enlightenment on this incredibly important issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Pleasure. Don't miss next month's episode of Firing Line. Just click on the red subscribe box at the end. You'll get just one email notice when the next program is posted, directly from YouTube, not from me. Write your comments on this YouTube page or go to our Facebook page or send us an old-fashioned email. It's my length, to bill@kutik.com. We want to know what you're thinking. I'm Bill Kutik. Thank you for watching.